Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. You are beautiful just the way you are. Step into the love. You're illuminated by the glory of God's love. Step into the truth. From within your abundance overflows. Our love can change one life. One life can change the world. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light. Step into the love. Step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. So move with me, step with me. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. Step into the light, step into the love, step into the truth of who you are. I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. So move with me, step with me, step into the light.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Vida Spiritual Learning Center. Glad you are here with us today, joining us for our weekly gathering. And I did want to take a moment to acknowledge where we are in our country. And tomorrow, as many know, is Memorial Day in the United States of America. And I just want to take this time to recognize this day as a holy day. And it's a holy day to remember those who gave their earthly lives to a higher purpose. And that higher purpose is one of advancing the qualities of liberty and equality and justice. So I invite you just to take a moment here and now to honor and appreciate and give great thanks to these beloved beings, and to include the family and friends of those who gave their lives to this noble cause. I invite you to extend your heartfelt love, compassion, and gratitude. And so blessing the world as we are blessed, especially by these beloved beings, I simply rest in this appreciative poise. And now it is. Well, thank you for joining in that moment of appreciation and recognition. And as is our desire, our intention at Vida is that this be a time that is rich in spiritual practice. And one of the ways that we enter into that spiritual practice is by reminding ourselves of our vision and mission. And our vision and mission goes something like this, and I'll say it in both English and in Spanish. By valuing and empowering all, we inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. Al valorar y potenciar todo, inspiramos una vida plena y alegre. So just invite you now to look this over, read this over, maybe say this aloud to yourself. These statements of vision and mission for me are centering and empowering and inspiring, and I trust they are for you as well. And so I want to bring into our spiritual practice, our practitioner of the day, and that is Gary Takasian. And he is going to lead us in a meditation and an invocation this morning. And so I invite you to take it away, Gary.
All right. Thank you, Rev Kev. And I just invite us to just sort of move into that space of quiet peace, perhaps meditative state. And just breathe in deeply that spirit that surrounds, that spirit that gives life to all things. And just take a couple of nice deep breaths. And what I like to do is take a deep breath in, hold it for a second, and then just release deeply. And maybe do that again, breathing in, holding for a moment, and then releasing. So as we wrap up the month of May, and we've been exploring our emotions, we're now going to look at the ups and downs that we experience in the normal course of our daily life. And for most of us, the ups can be fun, enjoyable, and exhilarating, but it's the downs where we give pause. Sometimes it's a painful situation that stops us in our tracks and leads us into times of sadness and grief. And it's interesting to note that our CSL denomination puts together our monthly themes and our weekly topics well in advance. And yet it seems especially synchronous this week as we feel our way through yet another gun-related tragedy, this time in Uvalde, Texas, following shortly after that shooting in Buffalo, and yet another one that's even closer to home in Laguna Woods. We would have to be robots not to feel heartbroken at the loss and the loss of life and the road ahead for those survivors. And, when our pain and sadness is caused by these external events, it's really easy to feel helpless to do anything about it. And yet, this is where our science of mind teaching comes into play. For we know two important things. First, that we are the authors of our own life experience. And second, that the love of God supersedes all things, including grief and sorrow. We also know that it's important not to try and whitewash away our feelings by smiling and imagining that they don't exist, but instead to allow ourselves to lean into the feelings and to let them wash over us and give ourselves the opening to truly feel empathy and compassion. And those, of course, are the gateway to love, to that love of the divine. So let's spend a few minutes now in the space of the divine and allow ourselves to acknowledge any of the sadness, grief, or helplessness that we may be feeling, knowing that as they wash over us, the love of God meets us on the other side and indeed fills us with the courage to move on. As we acknowledge whatever feelings have come up for us, let us also acknowledge the love of the divine, that warm feeling that comforts us, that allows us to be in that space, knowing that love conquers all. And as we breathe into this moment, let's begin to bring our attention back into the space in which we find ourselves, perhaps by moving a muscle or two, moving your head back and forth, and just gently bring your eyes back into vision and acknowledging where you are at this time. And we will just leave that time of meditation behind. And I invite you now to join me in the invocation. And this morning, I'm going to allow us to just truly acknowledge the presence of the divine, to know that this spirit is that which has created all things, including each and every one of us. And as we know and recognize that presence, we also know and we can acknowledge too that we are part of that divine creation, that there is no place where the presence of the divine does not exist. It is there for each and every one of us. It includes each and every one of us. And as we acknowledge that, we come into that place of realization, of knowing that truth, that each and every one of us possess that divine love, that divine presence. And that brings us to a place where we know that we can create the existence that we have, the life that we live, the life that surrounds us. And that gives us the courage to go forward in whatever circumstances we may find ourselves. There is that divine presence, that oneness that includes us in that divine presence. And so this morning, as we let go of that which we were talking about in our meditation and we embrace this love in this space, I just acknowledge that this center, that this space, that this congregation that gathers this morning knows that truth, knows that love. And so in that, it just leads me to a feeling of gratitude. And I give thanks for knowing those truths, for knowing that reality of the love of the divine. And so I now just allow that to be released into that creative law that takes that which we have spoken and brings it into manifestation. And so I allow that to be by saying, and so it is, and now it is. Amen.
Beautifully done. Thank you so much, Gary. Let's show Gary some love for our meditation and invocation today. Whoops. Went the wrong way. Well, I have just a couple of announcements for today. Our spiritual remedy with Reverend Sunshine continues every Monday at 9 a.m. And you can participate in that spiritual remedy on the Vida SLC Facebook Live. So tune into our Facebook page and at 9 a.m. Mondays, and you will be joining in about a 20 or 30 minute message and interaction process with Reverend Sunshine. And our CSL Teen Summer Camp is in person this year. It is at Camp Cedar Ridge in Vernonia, Oregon. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And the date of the camp is actually July 6th through 13th. That's a Wednesday to a Wednesday. And the cost is $525. Now, the registration is happening now through June 6th. So this will be the last week that you can register. And the folks at CSL were very adamant about no late registrations. So we want to make sure we get that in this week for any teens that are planning to attend. You can find more information at csl.org/team camp. Now, we do have some scholarship opportunities. So if you know a teen that needs some financial help to get to camp, ask me or Reverend Sunshine or any on our leadership council, and we will help you out for that. I think if you donate to our Square Up site, you can just put a memo or a note on there that you are contributing to our scholarship fund. And I want to, again, a spiritual practice of gratitude to give thanks to all of those who joined together to complete and fulfill and advance the Vida Spiritual Learning Center. So a very special thanks to our practitioner of the day, Gary Takasian. Thank you again for that magnificent meditation and invocation. Spot on, I feel. And special thanks to me, I'm just kidding. But I am delivering the message for you today, so I hope you enjoy and appreciate it. Thanks to those who are moderating our live streams on both Facebook and YouTube. Thanks to our leadership council that is gradually gaining some new momentum as we are ramping up our operations as the Vida Spiritual Learning Center. So great work already done to move from where we were at Downey less than 2 years ago to where we are now at Vida. It's been an extra special effort and time for our leadership council. And thanks to our technical team, we're adding a few folks to help out behind the scenes, and including Gary is really part of our technical team because he has that particular skill and art. And a special thanks to all of you for joining us here today. It's what makes this time really valuable and powerful and meaningful for me. And I trust it does for you as well. So thank you. And another spiritual practice is giving as a spiritual practice. And the ways in which you can give are to mail your gift to 1524 East Hellman Street. That's in Long Beach, California, 90813. Or you could use your bill pay service through your bank. Or you could use the donate link in the chat or the donate button on our website. And I will put that website in chat for you. So if you want to visit our new website, there it is. And we also have added Zelle. So if your bank participates or offers the Zelle service, you can Zelle either to our phone number or to Vida, the email address vidaslc.org. So that's the way in which you can give. But this elevates to a spiritual practice based on the consciousness with which you give. So if you are giving kind of mindlessly, this spiritual practice will have sort of an equivalent value or importance to you. But if you're giving here and any sort of giving, whether it's giving to a friend or a family or giving at the check stand at the grocery store, if you have a consciousness of or a quality associated with that giving, then it becomes a more powerful spiritual practice. So the kind of qualities that come forth for me are qualities of generosity, a quality of of abundance, of a feeling in a flow or a circulation, maybe feeling prosperous, prosperity, maybe feeling that your life is plenty and therefore it is just a natural extension of that plenitude to give. So I invite you to unmute yourselves now, and we're going to say our statement of giving together simultaneously in English and in Spanish. I'm going to choose English, and if you want, hold your hand over your heart as we say it together. Abundance
Abundance
flows in
flows
my
in my
life.
life.
I am
I
blessed
am
with
blessed with
prosperity.
prosperity.
I
I
give
give
with
with
generosity.
generosity.
Yes.
Yes.
I tithe
I
on faith,
tithe on
belief,
faith, belief,
and with a
and with a
consciousness of
consciousness
love.
of love.
My
My
gift is a
gift is
divine
a divine
circulation through
circulation
me
through me
that now
that now
benefits and
benefits and
grows our
grows our
spiritual
spiritual
community
community and
and
beyond.
beyond. And
And
now
now
it
it
is.
is.
So I invite you to mute yourselves and sing along within the spirit as we prepare for today's message.
I'm walking in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit of one God, loving in the Spirit, loving in the Spirit, loving in the Spirit of one God, moving in the Spirit. Oh, I'm moving in the Spirit. Oh, the Spirit. Oh, God. Growing in the Spirit. Every day I'm growing in the Spirit. Growing in the Spirit. The Spirit. The Spirit. Oh, God. Knowing in the Spirit. Knowing in the Spirit. Knowing in the Spirit. The Spirit of one God. Singing in the Spirit. I lift my voice and sing, in the Spirit. Oh, I lift my voice and sing, in the Spirit. Oh, the Spirit. The Spirit. The Spirit. One God. The Spirit. One God.
Just taking that breath and spirit. Hello and welcome to our weekly gathering at Vida Spiritual Learning Center. I am delighted to be with you today. And I want to get right to it, this being our fifth Sunday in May. The 2022 theme is continuing as Living Everyday Wonder. Are you living everyday wonder? Wondering that? For the month of May, we have been exploring emotions. And of the 6 basic emotions, fear, anger, sad, disgust, surprise, and joy, We've looked at the full spectrum of the human emotional experience and expression. We've looked more closely at the spiritual aspects of fear, of joy, of anger. And today I talk a little bit about sadness. And this week's topic is called Low Tide or High Tide, from sadness to joy. Now, sad is an emotion that takes many forms and very often associated with perceived loss. Sometimes it may be a chemical imbalance or loneliness or feeling disconnected. You might feel sad as a result of trauma or stress. There might be something wrong in your diet that causes you sadness. The weather, seasonal affective disorder, maybe causes sadness. You might have some unmet needs, wants, desires. You might have a habit of being self-critical. No matter how you get to sad, like all emotions, as the waves of sadness move through you, there is a cause behind that heals and shifts and transforms. And as one of the first spiritual practices that mattered to me, made a difference for me, was affirmation, a way of declaring intentions. So here are a few affirmations I will refer to throughout my message today. I intend sadness to transform to gladness through love. I intend anger to transform to peace through love. I intend fear to transform to faith through love. And as I often remind myself, the spiritual journey you and I are on is in part to feel better, right? And that also means better at feeling. And this is one of the reasons we're gathered here today. Now, the intention at Vida Spiritual Learning Center is for you to live your best life. And your best life means a life rich in thoughts and beliefs and feelings and intuitions and emotions. Your best life means finding that balance in all aspects of your life, including that balance between feelings and emotions. And one of the ways that you and I get there is through a dedicated and consistent spiritual practice. In any of these, a few minutes each day really propels and accelerates you to living your best life. So a little each day, meditate. A little each day, treat or affirm or pray. A little each day, do some form of spiritual study or reading. You might use journaling as a daily spiritual practice. And as I always encourage, visioning. And then perhaps less frequently, but just as important, engage in sacred service. See your spiritual counselor or your practitioner. Give as a spiritual practice. We might call that tithing. And doing as we are doing right now, joining in the beloved community. Now we just affirmed our intentions, which if you recite that out loud a few times each day, that is a powerful spiritual practice. You will notice something shifting. Now, intentions differ from goals or objectives or outcomes or manifestations. Intentions plant this really powerful seed in your consciousness, and that seed is allowed to grow into any and many good things. And the first demonstration of any affirmation or any prayer, as it might be included or incorporated, is one of that growth in consciousness. And that growth in consciousness is first felt as an inward sensation, a feeling. It is, as we just affirmed, gladness, a peace, a faith, and a love. The science of mind and spirit, those positive inward sensations are the direct experience of God that indwells and surrounds you. Now, consider this relatively short list of God qualities. And as you read this list, notice if a feeling arises in you. And that feeling is God in you, as you, and for you. And as you circulate that goodness, it brings good within and for the lives that your life touches. Now, affirmations can be a lead into meditation. It can be part of your affirmative prayer. It could be something that you read, maybe study around. It could be a subject for journaling. It could become a question that leads you into visioning. For example, what is the divine high idea for my transformation? Or for love, or peace, or faith? And as that question is answered in conscious mind, you notice the God qualities that well up within you. I love this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well." You know, in the same way, the science of mind distinguishes emotions from both thoughts and feelings, where thoughts and feelings are cause and emotions are an effect. I like to make that distinction between vision and mission and purpose. You know, vision is being. Visioning brings about the conscious awareness of being, the quality, that feeling, that character of who you are at your essence. And who you are at your essence is pure spirit. Mission is doing. It's the actions you take to expand, to experience, to express, to circulate the vision, the qualities that have welled up, that have emerged. And purpose is the reason you make a mission out of the vision. It's why you're doing what you're doing. So Emerson's exhortation begins with purpose, right? Why you do the things you do. And what is the reason you are choosing to conduct your life in this way? And as Emerson said, it's not to chase after an effect. And effects are temporary and fleeting. It's not to synthesize an emotion. And in this case, it's not to synthesize that temporary emotion of happiness. Instead, well, and just to review a little bit, you know, emotions have many metaphysical facets or meanings. And we know emotions as streams in your body temple. But metaphysically, those streams are carrying you to more peace, to more compassion, and more love. Emotions in the grand scheme of things increase your circulation of living spirit. And as I mentioned earlier, there are kind of 6 categories of emotions: fear, anger, joy, sad, disgust, and surprise. And in the English language, there are many words that refer to these 6. And for example, you may use the word shocked when you have the emotion, notice the emotion of surprise, or you might use the word ecstatic when the emotion of joy is present. So there are kind of some bullet points for emotions, you know, some, we'll say, ground rules for how I will incorporate emotions into the science of mind and in a metaphysical context in general. First of all, emotions often get your conscious attention, right? You might be unclear about your thoughts or your beliefs or your ideas or your intuitions or even the feelings that are causing those emotions, but you're usually aware of your emotions in conscious mind. Emotions are powerful biochemical energy flows. They are objectively observable. And those objectively observable emotions indicate that you are evolving through this human phase of your soul's journey. Emotions come and go in waves. And as those waves of emotion pass, there's an opportunity for some positive benefit. And anytime emotions appear to be overwhelming, just know that there are healers and caregivers that are living their vision, mission, and purpose. And that vision, mission, and purpose is to help you. Emotions are transformative and essential to this human phase of your soul's evolution. And as emotions wash over you, your consciousness shifts and grows. You evolve feelings, beliefs, thoughts, perceptions, intuitions, and ideas. And finally, the point that I want to, the facet of emotions that are important to me today are emotions in the science of mind world are effects of some other cause. Now, the cause could be a feeling, a belief, a thought, a perception, an intuition, an idea, something from ancient history, something you're imagining far off in the future. But emotions are an effect. So the first metaphysical law I and many of us learn to put into action is the law of cause and effect. And in the science of mind, thoughts and feelings and intuitions and hidden thoughts or beliefs, right? Those are causes. And the actions, the things that derive are emotions or can be emotions. And those are the effect of those thoughts, feelings, intuitions, perceptions, right? As you apply the law of cause and effect to your life, you gain dominion where you perhaps thought you had none. You gain a more positive concept of yourself. You notice that you have more choices where you thought you had few choices. And you make better choices for your physical, emotional, spiritual health and growth. Now, with this knowledge, this understanding, and the support systems that surround those, and with spiritual practices, we can now modify our affirmation to, I allow sadness to transform to gladness through love. I allow anger to transform to peace through love. I allow fear to transform to faith through love. Now, as I mentioned, the science of mind distinguishes emotions from thoughts and feelings. Reverend Sunshine talked about when emotions become a thought, they're no longer emotions. And I'm talking about thoughts being the proceeding onto feelings, and then feelings being expressed, experienced, the effect of those feelings being emotion. And this distinction for me was one of the most powerful and liberating principles I've learned in all of my metaphysical journey. As I've shared for approximately the first 30 years or about half of my life, I was devoted to an elaborate and not so constructive mechanism of denying and suppressing anything that had to do with feelings and emotions. And I was overcompensating by being in my head, so to speak, thinking. And that was, I wasn't growing in any sense. And it was, as I have mentioned, exhausting and draining to maintain that level of, suppressing and denying and avoiding emotions and feelings. Understanding the law of cause and effect and applying it to my life It was an easy mental process. I was already overactive in my head, but the feelings and emotions were a kind of mystery and also a kind of kryptonite for me. So after a few years on my spiritual path and applying these principles and metaphysical laws and developing a kind of spiritual practice, not great, but I was growing, I was moving, I got up to a point where I got overwhelmed with emotions. You know, the storms of emotions were so strong that I was barely able to function. And this might be what some call a kind of a dark night of the soul. And is often the case, the structures of my life were fundamentally reordered, we'll put it like that. And to be more specific, my marriage had ended, had come apart. I had lost a job that I liked. Soon after that, I had to sell my home and downsize. Now, I will say this, throughout this period, I was really helped and healed by a lot of different forces and people. So there were doctors and therapists and medications and spiritual counselors and family and friends and metaphysical books. And all of this together literally saved this earthly phase of my spiritual journey. And as I'm more steps down my spiritual path or on my spiritual path, and also really in a gradual but consistent recovery from this dark night of the soul, that's when I came upon the science of mind. And when I got to the science of mind, I was very moved, as many of us are when we first come to this teaching. And I was called to really just dive into the teaching. I took every class. I became part of the service teams at my church. I attended most of the church functions. And this is from a person who had no church experience up to that point in my life. So it was a big shift for me. And as I said, perhaps the most liberating and powerful concept for me is that feelings, that inward positive sensation, that is a direct sensation, that is a direct realization of living spirit. You know, and then those feelings give rise to the most positive and powerful thoughts or ideas. Feelings can be fully experienced inward and can be enhanced and extended and circulated as emotions. So learning about this distinction was just the kind of key I was looking for to move to that next phase of spiritual growth. However, even though I embraced and immersed in feelings as cause and emotions as effects, I was always kind of apprehensive, a little worried that at any moment I could really be tossed back into that turbulent sea of emotions, revisit that dark night of the soul. But what I learned through the science of mind was that I had a great amount of dominion over my emotional being. That is completely different from suppressing emotions, all right? It's a way of incorporating and integrating emotions into a positive, a constructive in my life. So even if I did find myself on those turbulent emotional seas, I now knew and I felt inwardly that there was this current of God, of living spirit, that was moving me, that was guiding me, that was pulling me, and it was pulling me to something that was calm and peaceful and compassionate, that shore of loving being. So looking at Emerson's quote again, the purpose of life is not to be happy, it is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. And since your purpose is not to chase emotions, nor to be at the effect of emotions, nor to put effects before causes, your purpose is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate. So I noticed that Emerson's prescription, first of all, doesn't depend on anything else or anyone else. This is all up to you. This is your mission should you choose to accept it, right? And what Emerson is doing is just listing those God qualities, those feelings that arrive from the vision. So it's the qualities of usefulness, how good it feels to be useful. The quality is to be honorable, how good it feels to be honorable. The quality is compassion, how good it feels to be compassionate. The quality is to make some positive difference, right? And how good it feels to make a positive difference in your life and in the lives your life touches. And how good it is to live and live well. So now our affirmation goes straight to the heart, right? It is more direct. My sadness transforms to gladness through love. My anger transforms to peace through love. My fear transforms to faith through love. So let's turn our attention inward. And as I call to heart and mind, living spirit, that presence that knows, that feels, that emotes, that creates, that surrounds and indwells all that is. Living spirit is that universal presence. It is infinite intelligence. It is first cause. And I know spirit to be everywhere and within, and therefore I know that I am one with and of living spirit. And what is true for me is true for all beings everywhere. You too are one with and of living spirit. You and I are extensions and emanations from and of this first cause. We are meditations in the mind of God. So I speak my word that through this universal mind, that we co-create with God. And therefore we make that choice to fully express and experience the full measure that this human phase of our soul's journey offers. Right? I speak my word knowing that our intention, our acceptance, our allowance, our affirmation is to live and live well. I speak my word that I accept and allow and invite the power and intelligence of emotions to transform me at the deepest level, knowing that those emotions are really an upward spiral that take me to a higher consciousness. And as my inward feelings are that direct contact with universal love, I consciously choose to express those feelings as emotions and express those emotions for the highest good and for the highest good for all those my life touches. So blessing the world as I am blessed, I give thanks for this answered prayer, for this communion in spirit. And I lovingly release my word into the law of mind, knowing as it is spoken, as it is thought, as it is felt, as that flow of emotions now occurs, I know that that transformation for good, for God, is happening right here and right now. It's happening now. And now it is, and so it is. Amen. Thank you all so much. We will see you next time. Sorry for my squeaky chair. I just want to remind folks that prayer is available with a practitioner after we sign off from our live stream. And if you would just let me or Gary know, we will pair you up with one of our practitioners. It might be just Gary today. I think Irma was here, but I'm not sure. Yeah, she's still here. And we use the breakout rooms so that you can have a one-on-one experience with them via Zoom. I trust everybody is enjoying the holiday weekend as best as can be expected. And I want to move into our closing prayer, and our closing prayer is sung, and a prayer raised in song is a prayer prayed twice. And so I invite you to sing along with In Love We Stand.
This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. This is our prayer, a song of peace. We get to be the change we want to see. With open hearts and open hands, we lift our voices, in love we stand. We lift our voices, in love we stand. We lift our voices, in love we stand.
So I want to wish our live streamers on Facebook and YouTube have a wonderful week. We will see you next time.